So first things first, my face. It's different. I normally have a mustache, and today I don't. So take a moment, orient yourselves. All good? Okay. Today we'll be talking about the online discourse regarding the situation in Gaza. And that means I have to start this video off with a very clear statement of my unequivocal position on this matter. For the benefit of anyone who cares to know, or for the benefit of anyone who feels like I have not yet been sufficiently publicly clear on this matter, it is my unambiguous and unequivocal belief that what is taking place currently in Gaza is a genocide. It is a genocide being perpetrated by the Israeli government against the Palestinian people. What the Israeli government is doing easily and clearly meets the definitional standards of that word. It is one of the most egregious humanitarian crises of the 21st century, and indeed of my lifetime. Now, I wish that statement were sufficient, but I feel it is necessary to go even further and say that I unequivocally and without exception condemn genocide and think that it is bad. I do not support what is happening, and I want it to stop. I want it to be crystal clear before we get into this video that I am not ambivalent about my position. I am not hemming and hawing. I am not both sidesing. I am decidedly pro-Palestine. In regards to my position on Hamas and whether or not I condemn Hamas, I can tell you easily and without reservation that I condemn what took place on October 7th, 2023. However, it is my opinion that the question, do you condemn Hamas, is unfortunately now, more often than not, a bad faith attempt to shift focus away from the atrocities the IDF is committing on a daily basis in Gaza. If the question were to be posed in good faith, we would need to be able to establish clear parameters in our language regarding what and who we are specifically referring to when we say Hamas. That's the only way I would have any chance of answering the question properly. It is my belief that there is ample evidence that the Israeli government is not interested in defining a meaningful distinction between Hamas and Palestinian civilians. And even if they are occasionally willing to acknowledge a difference between Hamas and Palestinian civilians, they don't seem to be interested in targeting one while sparing the other. They'll simply say, well, if Hamas is hiding behind Palestinian women and children, then we simply have no choice but to kill Palestinian women and children. This is a war. Sad things happen in war. The fact is that the rhetoric and militaristic strategies of Israeli leaders makes their agenda abundantly clear. They want to completely annihilate Palestine and the Palestinian people. They seem to have a fundamental belief that as long as Palestinian people exist, Hamas will never be able to be fully eradicated, and Israel will therefore never be fully safe. This is the clear narrative we hear again and again from them in language that is entirely unambiguous. They seek to dehumanize every man, woman, and child in Gaza with their rhetoric. The purpose of this dehumanization is clear. If they can prevent their soldiers and their citizens from seeing Palestinians as human beings, they can create a nation of people who will enthusiastically support their genocidal agenda. Okay. I really hope that's clear and that no one is confused at this point about my position. If you make it to the end of this video and somehow think that what I've said here is evidence that I'm not willing to take a meaningful stance against genocide, or that I'm pro-Israel, or that I don't care about the suffering of the people in Gaza, I would recommend coming back to this point in the video and rewatching what I just said, and then just keep rewatching that section until it hopefully sticks. I'll also ask at the outset of our topic today that if you want to meaningfully engage with this video in the comments, you first watch the entire video and really try to listen. Don't just listen for turns of phrase that rub you the wrong way or moments that you find particularly triggering. Those moments will almost certainly exist in this video. There will likely be moments where I'll use a certain word or a certain phrasing, and you'll think that I could have or should have used a better word or a better phrase. I don't know what these words or phrases are yet, mind you. I'm not intentionally crafting the script for this video to contain intentionally objectionable or triggering words or phrases. I'm doing my best to be as clear and inoffensive as I can. I'm just acknowledging that there is almost no way I can ensure that some of you aren't going to, at some point, find something in this video that you'll want to fight with me about in the comments. There will probably be moments where I'll say something and you'll have a guttural, knee-jerk reaction. It will elicit an immediate emotional response, and you'll want to react to that emotional response immediately. You are, of course, free to do that. I can't stop you, and even as I'm saying this, it's probably already happening. It's just that this video is about how we are conducting ourselves in the online discourse around the genocide in Gaza. The goal of this video is to try to strategize and consider the most effective ways of having a discourse that is meaningful, informative, and effective. So what I'm asking is that if you want to contribute in a meaningful and productive way, please try to listen first and react second. When you have an instinctive emotional reaction, please feel free to pause the video, take a moment, notate the timestamp and what I said, and then continue listening. And if you can do all that, if you can really listen to the full context of this video and offer me that grace and patience, and you still find at the end that I did not sufficiently explain whatever word or phrase triggered you, then feel free to sound off and start a discussion. All right. Thanks. Here we go. A while ago, an internet friend of mine, a guy I really respect and like, a creator who I think has made a lot of really worthwhile videos, sent me a video he made and asked if I would share that video and help promote it because he felt like the TikTok algorithm was probably going to suppress it. This is something that happens from time to time. A person will post a video that they feel particularly proud of or that they feel has a particularly important message, and they'll send it out to their friends and followers as a DM and ask people to help get the video circulating. It's a somewhat common strategy for dealing with an often unpredictable algorithm. Anyway, we're just gonna start off here by going through that video.
Zionism means Jews definitely welcome.
We are live with America's favorite game show, Google is Free. What the fuck is going on edition, starring me, Peyton, not Chet, Peyton. You guys may have noticed I haven't posted much until recently, and I don't know what the fuck happened when I left, but everything just became pure insanity and lunacy. So I'm gonna use the video that I just stitched to help you guys see through the smoke and make things pretty fucking clear for you. So everybody buckle up, pay attention, let's begin.
Zionism means Jews definitely welcome.
Okay, so off the bat, we've already got some fuck shit. So here's lesson number one. Zionism isn't an open-ended book. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you don't get to just say that this thing that's currently causing a mass genocide, your interpretation of it is that it's just all love and sunshine and rainbows. It doesn't work that way. Let me give you an example. If a white supremacist walked up to you on the street and started talking to you about what white supremacy actually meant to them and how it was all okay, you wouldn't let them finish their sentence. You would be as far away from them as possible because you know what white supremacy is. You don't need to hear somebody else's interpretation of it because you've seen its effect in the world and what it actually is in practice. So no, we're not going to listen to your bullshit interpretation of what you feel Zionism is in your heart because it's moot. In the real world, we know exactly what it is. The genociding of the Palestinian people. Point blank, period.
So far, fully agree. No notes. Peyton and I are pretty ideologically similar, so no surprises there. But since this is a video specifically about finding strategies for a more productive discourse, I will just piggyback on Peyton's first point here and take a moment to address anyone who has ever made a point like the one actor Brett Gelman is making in that clip. If you are a person who has defended the concept of Zionism by saying that it simply refers to the right of Jewish people to self-determine and to seek a sovereign homeland, and that opposing Zionism is categorically anti-Semitic because it means you oppose the right of Jewish people to self-determine and safely and freely exist. First of all, thank you for watching this video. Sincerely, I applaud your intellectual curiosity and your willingness to engage with ideas that may differ from your own. I don't doubt that you firmly believe that the term Zionism is being co-opted or misused, or even deliberately used as a dog whistle in a knowingly anti-Semitic way in much of our online discourse. If you are Jewish, you've likely experienced or witnessed very real anti-Semitic bigotry and hate in your life. You are probably familiar with a certain level of anxiety over the prejudice that you know exists in the world against you and people like you. You probably have a good deal of pride in your identity and a desire to not be bullied into a small, fearful existence by white supremacy and anti-Jewish hate. The propaganda that is designed to get you to identify with Zionism preys on all of this. Pro-Zionist propaganda is designed with the knowledge that you have experienced real prejudice because of your identity. You've likely been developing a sense for identifying anti-Semitic bigotry throughout your life as a means to stay safe. Pro-Zionist propaganda is designed to intentionally tap into that sense that you've been developing. And I don't know this because I'm just making a pontificating guess. I know this because I've listened to pro-Palestine Israelis who were raised in Zionist households and fed Zionist indoctrination their entire lives. I listen to what they say about the way that they were taught to dehumanize Palestinian people and to believe that they have a holy, God-given right to the land that they are occupying. It's through listening to them and watching the effects of Zionism in action that I understand Zionism to be the main ideological fuel for the genocide in Gaza.
Zionism is not Judaism. In fact, everything about my Jewish heritage and the values that were passed down to me reject Zionism and demand that I stand against Zionism, which is a white supremacist, fascist, genocidal ideology. Criticizing Zionism is not anti-Semitic. Criticizing Israel, an apartheid state that is enacting a genocide in real time in front of our eyes on social media, is not anti-Semitic. Comparisons between what is happening in Gaza and the Holocaust are not only apt and appropriate, they are important. That is why we practice history. That is why we say never again, so that when we see a genocide happening again, like we're seeing now, we can recognize it and call it out and demand for an end to it.
Peyton's analogy about white supremacists trying to redefine white supremacy to mean something less sinister is spot on, because this is actually what white supremacists do all the time. They'll say things like, Japan is mostly made up of Japanese people and you don't have a problem with that, so why is it evil and racist for white people to want their own ethno-state? It's a very reductionist and disingenuous way of characterizing a very insidious ideology. It's not necessarily that your chosen definition of the word Zionism is wrong per se, it's just that it's kind of incomplete. The word has additional meanings that are assigned to it by the context of its cultural application. So if I said white nationalism is the simple belief that white people are entitled to a safe place to live their lives, I'm not completely wrong. That's definitely like a part of what white nationalism is and what white nationalists believe. But if I leave out the context of how the ideology of white nationalism has been applied culturally throughout history, then I'm leaving out a pretty sizable chunk of what white nationalism actually is. And it's the exact same with Zionism. When you say that Zionism is the simple belief that Jews have the right to self-determination and safety, you're saying a thing that is true about what Zionists believe, but you're leaving out a whole lot of context regarding how the ideology of Zionism has been implemented in the world and what has happened as a result of it. Now, if you're doing that intentionally, then you're being intentionally disingenuous, and on some level, I hope you understand that being forced to lie to make your point is never really a good sign that you've got a strong, defensible position. But if you aren't leaving that context out intentionally and you were just running with a definition of the word that made you feel better about your identity, I get that. But I invite you to consider a sincere examination of what it is you truly believe on a personal, moral level.
You're a successful actor.
I mean, if you were a successful actor, you probably wouldn't have to whore yourself out supporting a genocide on the off chance that you might have a couple juicy roles in the future. I'm just saying.
I will just say really quick here, I get what Peyton's insinuating, and I don't think it's a necessary or particularly useful thing to imply. This pretty direct implication that Brett Gelman is saying what he's saying because he's afraid of losing work in Hollywood, to my ear, gets pretty close to the anti-Semitic trope that Jews run Hollywood and the media and nobody in show business will speak out against Israel for fear of upsetting their Jewish overlords. Like, I get that Peyton isn't saying explicitly those words, but it seems to me to be pretty clearly in that neighborhood, and even if that's genuinely not what Peyton intended, you can see how easily someone could get that idea. And Peyton definitely isn't the only pro-Palestine person on the internet who is loudly peddling this narrative that Hollywood is afraid to take a firm stance against Israel because I recently posted a trailer for an upcoming movie I'm in, and somebody in my comments said, "Oh, you're a Hollywood guy. Now it makes sense why you've been so silent on the genocide." Even though I haven't been silent about it at all, I've said a reasonable amount. I post pro-Palestinian content to my Instagram story pretty regularly, and just for good measure, I'm gonna go ahead and link every instance of me publicly expressing my pro-Palestine sentiment in the video description for anyone who wants to do a good faith deep dive on all that. I also get that this talking point isn't entirely baseless. I completely understand that there is merit to it, that there are many examples of many Hollywood elites either being alarmingly quiet on this issue or being on the complete wrong side of it altogether. I just think that when we start to bandy accusations that people are staying silent or taking a pro-Zionist stance because they are afraid of retribution from the secret cabal that we all know runs Hollywood, we unnecessarily stray into anti-Semitic territory that ultimately hurts and adds harmful toxicity to the pro-Palestine cause.
I am a liberal. I've spoken out for the Muslim ban, for ag clubs getting shut down in red state.
Remember that clip? We'll circle back to it at the end. Because before we do that, I need to give you guys some key information as it pertains to this genocide since October 7th. I'm not even going to touch the last 70 years of atrocities that Zionist forces and the IDF have committed against the Palestinian people. I'm just going to focus on since October 7th of last year because that's all you need to know. So since October 7th, the IDF and Zionist forces have killed over 25,000 innocent Palestinian civilians. They have killed 3 or more Israeli hostages. I say or more because they've actually started digging up bodies in mass to make sure the people they just destroyed weren't those hostages they were there to save. And you'll see there's question marks next to Hamas, and that's because we don't know how many members of Hamas they've killed, and why would we know? We've just established they don't even know how many of their own citizens they've killed. And since October 7th, the IDF and Zionist forces have destroyed over 2/3 of all structures in northern Gaza. They have destroyed over 1/4 of all buildings in southern Khan Yunis. They have destroyed over 70% of all school buildings in Gaza, and they have destroyed 110 mosques and 3 churches. So after all of that, I'm sure you guys are starting to get the picture, but there's still one more aspect that I need to educate you guys on because it will probably get brought up to you at some point in time, or for some reason, maybe you're thinking it right now. What about the hostages? Israel only cares about the hostages in Hamas. They don't want to have to do this. What about even if the way that Israel was going about obtaining their hostages, which is the only time in history that these methods have been used to obtain hostages because they're more in line with destroying fucking everything in their path. If you'd like to learn more about it, here's my Google is free. Even if that was the case, and this is how every country went about obtaining their citizens who have been taken captive, we now have unequivocal proof from Israel that they do not give a fuck about their hostages. They only care about continuing this genocide against the Palestinian people. Don't believe me? Well, let me break it down for you. Mere weeks ago, Hamas presented a permanent ceasefire agreement to the Israeli government, and these were the conditions. A, the withdrawing of all Israeli forces from Gaza while leaving Hamas intact. B, the releasing of all Palestinian hostages. Thousands of Palestinian hostages dating much further back than October 7th who were doing nothing more than just living their lives as Palestinian people and have been held captive ever since by the IDF. And C, the ending of the violence against the Palestinian people. All they had to do was agree to these terms. They said no. The Israeli government said no, that these conditions were too steep. Are you kidding me? Well, you guys trying to fucking kill us? Like, what do you mean? This is insane. If they cared about the hostages, this is a pretty slam dunk case to get your hostages back. No harm, no foul. Everything ends. But I'll do you one better, because Israel then came back with their own ceasefire agreement, and these are the terms of that: the returning of all Israeli hostages, the remaining ones. We're gonna keep your Palestinian hostages, but you go ahead and give us back ours, right? Because you like us so much. A 2-month ceasefire, not a permanent ceasefire. We'll go ahead and stop genociding the fuck out of you guys for about 2 months, just to kind of give you guys a break. And then 3, the pulling of some soldiers from certain areas of Gaza. We still want to keep most of our soldiers in your guys' area, but we'll pull some of them and probably put them back eventually. Who fucking cares? People who care about hostages agree to a permanent ceasefire. They don't want to have a 2-month ceasefire before they continue genociding the fuck out of you.
So everything Peyton says in this section of the video is accurate. The only real amendments this section needs is the additional context that since his video was posted in January, all of those numbers have increased. More people have died, more children have died, more hospitals and infrastructure bombed and destroyed. Everything has just increased substantially and continues to at the time that I'm making this video. But I agree with Peyton's analysis of this data. I agree that if Israel was only concerned with the safe return of their hostages, they would behave in a way that showed that their top priority is the safe return of their hostages. But obviously, Israel's top priority isn't the safe return of their hostages, but rather the total eradication of Hamas and indeed the Palestinian people. And I don't just know this by evaluating Israel's behavior or the ceasefire deals that they have rejected or proposed. You don't really need to do much deciphering or interpreting at all to understand what Israel's specific goals are. As I stated earlier in this video, Israeli leaders have expressly stated in completely unambiguous language that their top priority is the total annihilation of Palestine. Since this is a video about the online discourse and how we can effectively participate in that discourse and help the meaningful progress of that discourse, I feel like I should maybe address the tone of Peyton's video. I am personally actually fine with how unapologetically aggressive Peyton is here. It might not be the right vibe or the right approach for some viewers, but I do believe that a plurality of tones and stylistic approaches is probably useful and good overall. It's not a tone that I have chosen to adopt in my content that addresses this issue, but that doesn't mean I think it's bad or particularly corrosive to the cause. I totally understand Peyton's anger and don't think we need to spend time or energy tone policing someone who's just trying to draw attention to the grim realities of a situation as bleak and urgent as this one is. But here's where I have a real, genuine problem with Peyton's video, and it's the reason why I wasn't able to, in good conscience, share his video when he first posted it and asked me to.
Just to make things abundantly clear for you guys, let's go over your final lesson. All or nothing. The rest of this is going to be a tough pill for you guys to swallow, and I'm sorry, but it's important for you guys to know so we can all move forward on the same page. When it comes to your allyship, and I'm sorry if I haven't gotten this across to you guys in the past, it is all or nothing. Allyship, as it stands, should be all or nothing. You are not a situational ally. If you are, you can fuck off and die forever. The biggest contributing factor that you have to showing your support for these people is to not vote for the people who have been actively funding their genocide. So if you call yourself an ally, but then you decide to vote for one of the genocidal maniacs that we would have on the ballot instead of the other because of the possible future that it might entail for you, that's not like you. That sounds cowardly. And if it is you, you can fuck off and die. I don't care about you. I'm not being nice. I am being fair. I have presented all of the evidence that you could possibly need to make an informed decision on this, and you still decide that you are more worried about the possible outcome for you than the people who are actively dying right now every second. Because Google is free, but the Palestinian people aren't, and people who are actual allies won't stop until they are.
So yeah, if you couldn't tell by the title of this video, this concept of all or nothing is kind of the main thing that I want to examine and talk about. As I said, I think Peyton is fully entitled to have an aggressive or harsh tone in his content. It's his content and his creative voice. He can craft it in whatever way feels the most authentic to him. But I believe that telling people their advocacy and allyship exists in a cold, hard, all or nothing binary is an incredibly dangerous and counterproductive idea to put forward. Peyton's not necessarily wrong that you can't really be an effective or meaningful situational ally. A truly useful friend, ally, or advocate is one who does their best to show up when you need them and not only when it's convenient for them to do so. However, how each individual person shows up, the amount of effort they are able to bring to a given scenario, the amount of available bandwidth they are able to contribute to the cause, all of these things exist on a spectrum. There is a spectrum of useful advocacy that exists between the point of complete antipathy and absolute all-encompassing devotion. It is not simply all or nothing, and telling people that it is, and that if they aren't all in, they can fuck off and die forever, could really wind up discouraging a lot of people from contributing in meaningful ways. Or potentially worse, it could contribute to the idea that if you are going to show up and participate, you'd better be ready to give everything you are possibly capable of giving, including your life. Because if you aren't willing and ready to give that much, then your only other option is to be a completely useless waste of space who contributes essentially nothing. Now, it could sound here like I'm being reductive or possibly pedantic or intentionally obtuse, but I promise that isn't my aim. I just feel like this paradigm of all or nothing really frames and characterizes what I see as one of the central problems with our online discourse and activism surrounding the genocide in Gaza. When I hear Peyton say this, I can't help but sincerely ask the question, what specifically does that actually mean? Now, you could say it's not meant to be taken literally, that in this context, the word all is just a call for people to be really, really devoted to the cause, a call for people to be devoted to the point that they are willing to lose friends and perhaps income and to put themselves in uncomfortable and even potentially unsafe positions. But again, all of that stuff feels spectral to me. There are degrees to which a person can demonstrate that they are really, really devoted to a particular cause. One person might donate a fourth of their total net worth, demonstrating an immense amount of financial devotion and a willingness to take a severe personal financial hit in order to serve the cause, while another person might only be willing to donate, say, 10% of their money, while someone else is giving almost all of it. There are degrees to which a person might be able to put their body on the line for a cause. One person might spend an hour each week standing on a street corner in their local area holding signs advocating for a ceasefire. Another person might be traveling the country, attending every march, every sit-in, and every organized protest they can, while another might actually try to put their physical body where the action is and use it to physically oppose the IDF and in all likelihood be killed or seriously injured in the fighting. You get the idea. It's spectral, not binary. There are degrees to which you can demonstrate your allyship and advocacy. But that's simply not what all or nothing offers. If we're being honest about it, this is not a spectral proposition. It is cold and flat and rigid. It's 1 or 0, black or white, this or that. What Peyton is saying here is that if you want to be involved in fighting for Palestinian freedom and safety, you only have two options. You are either all in or you are not in at all. And when I try to sit and figure out what all means, I can't get around the fact that it just has to mean all. It can't mean most or really, really or a lot. It just has to mean all. It has to mean everything you are capable of giving. Any less than everything you are capable of giving cannot be definitionally regarded as all. It simply has to mean this.
I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
I'm not going to debate in this video whether Aaron Bushnell's death was an effective form of allyship or activism, or whether it's something we should be celebrating or criticizing. I am not at all interested in putting Aaron Bushnell or his choices on trial or under a microscope. All I'm saying is that if we are going to insist that allyship must exist on a binary consisting of all or nothing, then Aaron Bushnell has set forth a pretty solid standard for what all should probably look like. There is nothing more he can physically give, and he left all his money to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, so he can't give anything more in a material sense either. He made a gesture of absolute, all-encompassing devotion to the cause. Now, I would hope this would go without saying, but it is not my belief that the only way to be an effective and meaningful ally is to empty your bank account and self-immolate in front of your nearest Israeli embassy. The reason I even bring this up is because even when people aren't literally saying that your allyship or advocacy needs to be total and all-encompassing or else fuck off and die forever, there still is this attitude that you feel in so much of our online discourse, particularly when people are posting things like, "Why are so many of you so silent?" or "I feel so unsafe knowing how many of you are presumably okay with the fact that there's a genocide going on," or flooding the comments section of any video that is about anything other than Palestine with watermelon emojis. A subtle insistence that all other topics should be tabled until we've resolved this situation, and anyone who has the audacity to talk about anything other than this should be publicly called out and shamed. These kinds of actions, while certainly well-intentioned, seem to convey a subtextual implication that says, anything less than what I am currently doing is insufficient and makes you a bad person. Look at me! I'm doing a lot. I'm putting myself out there. I'm risking friendships and professional opportunities. And if you aren't doing at least as much as I'm doing, then you aren't doing enough. In fact, for all intents and purposes, you're doing nothing. I understand that the reason for this strategy of calling people out who you feel are doing less than you is to foster a radicalized culture of mutual outrage and mutual accountability. It's meant to be a communal call to action. It's meant to be a way for us to motivate each other to join the fray and get involved. I understand that the reason for much of the aggressiveness of these kinds of posts and tactics is due to the fact that the stakes are very high. New bombs are being dropped every day, and the body count is constantly rising. Men, women, and orphaned children are actively starving as I say these words. There is a very real urgency to this situation. A laid-back, casual reminder that this is happening and a congenial request to please give it a morsel of your attention feels tonally inappropriate and offensively inadequate. So instead, people say, "What the fuck is going on? Why is everyone acting like nothing is happening? Get off your asses, make some noise, call your local representatives, march in the street, punch your neighbor in the teeth, burn down a Starbucks, apologize to your neighbor and say it wasn't really about them, you're just really worked up about the genocide that your government is funding. Do something!" I get it. I really do. I promise. I understand this emotional response, and I find aspects of it to be deeply humane and compassionate. But I also worry that underneath that compassion and humanity could be another very normal human thing: an ego. Now, this is most likely not happening consciously, but rather as a subconscious means of feeling safe. In a world that feels profoundly unsafe and terrifyingly chaotic, the human ego self-soothes by saying, "At least I am a good person. At least I am doing what I can to make sure that the world does not turn a blind eye to what is happening. I may not be able to stand the world, but I can stand myself. I can live with myself and sleep at night knowing I did my part." And I think that it's this aspect of the messaging that winds up being particularly detrimental to the cause. If the point of something like Project Watermelon is to encourage creators with big platforms and significant reach to use their platform to get out accurate and useful information, if the goal of telling people that they need to be all in or they can fuck off and die is to encourage people to get off their asses and put real energy into the cause, I'm not sure that these methods are entirely effective at doing any of that.
Her comments have recently been targeted by Operation Watermelon, a movement that aims to get celebrities to talk about the situation.
The Daily Mail is reporting on Project Watermelon. That's such a big deal, and I really can't put into words of how big of a deal it is. That means that Operation Watermelon has been successful because it's getting the conversation started in places where people have been trying to ignore it. Many people have been trying to stick their head in the sand and just ignore what's happening in Gaza. And that's not an option. There's men, women, and children being eradicated off of the face of the planet. And what makes it even worse is that our tax dollars are funding it. The movement isn't about bullying, it's about spreading information about what's happening out there.
So this guy says that flooding Elise Meyer's comments with watermelons and getting her to quit TikTok was a success because now major news outlets are not only aware of Project Watermelon, but they are reporting on it. Pretty solid proof that even if their tactics were a bit aggressive and potentially inconsiderate of Elise, who happens to be dealing with a newborn child with severe health issues, their tactics were effective in getting the word out there. But is that actually what happened? Was the goal of flooding Elise's comments to get her to quit TikTok? Or was the goal to get her to use her platform to speak about the genocide? Because I think the goal should have been the second thing, right? In the current scenario, Project Watermelon did not succeed in convincing Elise to be their personal flag bearer. They succeeded in getting some media coverage for bullying a mother who was trying to take care of her kid. But that's not really useful media coverage for the Palestinian cause, is it? And it also just kind of makes them look like a bunch of inconsiderate, self-righteous assholes, and therefore makes the online cause look like it's populated by a bunch of inconsiderate, self-righteous assholes. And I get that these people, in all likelihood, don't care if I think that their treatment of Elise Myers makes them look bad. I know that they would probably say proudly that they are totally fine with people like me thinking they look like assholes, because them looking bad doesn't matter. What matters is calling people to action and making sure the world doesn't turn its gaze away from this active genocide. They are willing to sacrifice their own good image for the cause. They are willing to look bad in order to do good. And that would all sound really noble and cool and high-minded, except if the goal is to call people to action and to make sure that the world keeps its eyes on Gaza, I don't really see that goal being achieved here. I see the attention being pointed instead at Project Watermelon and how they aggressively browbeat everyone's favorite TikToker into deleting all of her videos and leaving the platform. And I really don't see how that's effective advocacy. I don't see how that's particularly useful. Let's pretend for a moment, for the sake of argument, that they had been successful at getting Elise to post a video where she said something to the effect of, Hey everybody, it's me, Elise Myers. Did you know that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide? And the genocide is not good. It's really bad, actually. And that Israel is an apartheid state? What? That's so crazy. All right. Time for my signature Elise Myers sign off. Goodbye. So she makes that video, she says all the slogans, and she publicly takes all the correct stances. Would that video be effective quality messaging? Again, even in that scenario, I'd argue that no. It would not. If Elise is making a video under duress to get the people in her comments to stop harassing her while she deals with a sick child, like, sure, she's on camera saying the things you want her to say to her big audience, but you can get people on camera saying things through threats and aggression. Ever seen that video of that POW blinking the word torture in Morse code while telling the camera that he's being treated really well by his captors?
I get adequate food and adequate clothing. and medical care when I require it.
Look, you don't just want Elise Myers to make a video saying all the right slogans and catchphrases. That's not what makes Elise Myers Elise Myers. That's not why her audience loves her. That's not the kind of video people go to her for. Ideally, you'd want Elise Myers to make a video that is in her authentic voice, that is coming from a genuine place and communicating her authentic feelings and thoughts. And you're only going to get that kind of video from a creator like Elise if she genuinely feels like she has something to offer that is useful and substantive. If she feels like she's just making a video to appease an angry mob, she's most likely not going to be doing her best work. Or she'll just completely shut down and won't make a video at all, which is what actually happened. It almost seems like Project Watermelon would be happy to have videos from influencers that feel like there's someone standing just out of frame with a gun pointed at their head. They don't really care if the video is high quality or feels genuine. They don't care if the messaging is substantive or provides useful information and resources. They presumably only care about getting their target to say the things they want them to say. And I say presumably because even then, it's usually not enough.
You're not helping these people.
The Democrat got ambushed by activists who demanded that she call what's happening in Gaza a genocide.
You refuse to call it a genocide in front of everybody.
I need you to understand that this is not okay.
It's not okay that there's a genocide happening. You're not actively against it.
You're lying.
It took me a little over 3 weeks after October 7th to post my first video essay on Israel and Palestine. I was trying to gather my thoughts because I'd never really made videos about Israel and Palestine before. It's just not an area that I had historically explored with any of my channels or with my content. I tend to keep my socio-political commentary focused on cultural issues in the United States because I just have a much more immediate personal connection to those issues and therefore a better intellectual grasp on them. In the weeks while I was writing that first video essay, I was receiving messages from friends and followers on a daily basis asking me why I was being so silent. And not asking me in a curious, hey, how are you holding up kind of way. It was more in like a, wow, I thought you were a decent human being, but you really turned out to be a total piece of shit. I can't believe you haven't said anything yet kind of way.
Meredith, you never told me your old grandpa used to be a huge piece of shit.
Could you not call my dad a piece of shit?
Like, I was writing as fast as I could. I was trying to get the video out, but I wanted to make sure that I was saying something useful. I wanted to make sure that I was saying what I wanted to say. I was trying to make sure that the language in the video accurately represented me and my feelings and my assessment of the situation. These videos can be hard to make, dude. They can take time, especially when I'm trying to make something that I hope will be meaningful and, useful to the cultural discourse. It didn't really matter though, because once I posted the video, it was clear that the mob who was hellbent on hating me was not going to be appeased by anything I had to say. And that's fine, because appeasing them isn't really my goal anyway. I'm not tailoring my advocacy to someone else's idea of what is and what is not good enough. I've since posted several videos on the topic and talked about it extensively on my podcast because I believe it's an important topic to discuss and pay attention to, not because I want the people who think I'm awful to like me. My pro-Palestine stance has been very publicly available for anyone who is sincerely interested in finding it for months now. But still, to this day, I regularly get DMs and comments from people accusing me of being silent on the issue. And when I point them in the direction of all the content I have made and let them know that my beliefs are very public and very clear, they don't say, "Oh, my bad, I missed those videos. I'm so sorry. Keep up the good work." They usually just move the goalpost and say, "Well then, why aren't you talking about it more? I picked 5 of your recent TikTok videos at random and not a single one mentioned Gaza. It's almost as if you don't care about it at all." This is where it becomes abundantly clear that these people aren't actually interested in making sure I'm speaking up on what's happening. They aren't actually interested in making sure I'm using my platform to advocate for this cause. They just want to identify someone with a bigger platform than them who they can feel superior to. Someone they can point to and say, "Hey, look at this person who's popular on the internet for supposedly being a good person. I'm currently doing more good things at a louder volume and a faster clip than they are, which means I am a better person than them and they are actually bad. Now, this might not solve any of the world's problems in any material way. It might not rid the world of its nuclear weapons or get rid of prejudice and bigotry in the world, solve the climate crisis, or save a single soul in Gaza, but it sure does make me feel better about being me. I understand that their hearts and minds are partly in the right place. I understand that every person who drops a free Palestine or a watermelon emoji in my comments section is doing so partly because they want to encourage me to continue using my platform to advocate for the cause. I know that the intention is mostly noble, but I worry about the shadow of these tactics, about what's subconsciously lurking behind them, about the human ego and its insatiable hunger for the intoxicant of superiority. When I watch Peyton's video, I think it's obvious that he isn't actually saying that you have to self-immolate in order to be a meaningful ally. Obviously, he's not self-immolating and doesn't seem to have any plans to, so he must believe on some level that it's not necessary to give every possible ounce of your being to the cause in order to be considered a useful advocate. I also don't think he's saying you need to empty your bank account and give every last penny you have to make sure Palestinians have access to food and water. I don't think he's doing that. He may be giving a substantial amount or whatever amount he feels like he can reasonably spare, but I doubt he has emptied his accounts and given up all of his material possessions to demonstrate his devotion. But I do think, when I watch his video, that there is this inescapable implication that what he actually means when he says all or nothing is you are either doing at least as much as he is doing, or
you can fuck off and die forever.
The problem with this kind of thinking is you can't help but be a hypocrite when you adopt it. Your bar for who is and who is not a good person, for who gets to stand with you and who should fuck off and die forever, is set at who is doing at least as much as I am doing. And the obvious problem with that is there's always going to be someone doing more than you, and there will always be people doing less than you. Because, as I've already said, the degree to which any given person is able to show up as an ally or advocate exists along a spectrum. If a person has $1,000 in their bank account and is only willing to donate $50, I'm not going to spit in their face and say, I'm sorry, $50? $50? What is that, some kind of sick fucking joke? I just donated $5,000. Get on my level or rot in hell, you heartless cretin. I'm going to graciously accept their $50 donation and then thank them for their generosity. It doesn't really matter if someone else is doing less than me because I'm doing less than someone else. We're all showing up at different places along the advocacy spectrum. I don't know their life, I don't know what they need the rest of the money for, and it's frankly none of my goddamn business. What's most effective from a strategic point of view is encouraging more and more people to get involved and to take their place somewhere in that advocacy spectrum, somewhere between total apathy and Aaron Bushnell. It would be amazing if we all had the ability to mobilize in a way where we were almost completely all in and where all of our time and energy was collectively devoted to ending the bloodshed in Gaza before we resolved any other issues happening anywhere else in the world. But that, unfortunately, just isn't a realistic goal. What's more realistic is meeting people where they are with compassion and trying to get them involved in whatever way they feel capable. We have to truly remove our ego from the equation. We have to ask ourselves, am I using this tactic because I genuinely think it will inspire someone to help? Or am I just doing it because I want this person to know how disappointed I am in them for not being able to do at least as much as me? This tactic does not provide much of an incentive for people to step forward into the spectrum at all. If you tell them that you're most likely going to be disappointed in them, even if they speak up, that even if they step forward, it will be regarded as too late or too little, that whatever they are going to contribute will be shot down and shamed as insufficient and useless, then they will likely just stay where they are. If you're not willing to meet people where they are and accept varying degrees of allyship and advocacy, if you are committed to the position that anyone who gets involved needs to be able to, at the minimum, be on your level. Your ego is hijacking your advocacy. Your hunger for superiority and sanctimony is co-opting your message. And also, I'll just say that it's kind of weird to make your level of advocacy the minimum in order for other people to qualify as good allies. It's sort of like weirdly standing in self-righteous judgment of others while simultaneously admitting that you are only currently doing the minimum. I'm about to say one of those things I warned you about at the beginning of the video. One of those things that's probably going to elicit a knee-jerk emotional reaction. Something you'll probably immediately disagree with and want to rush to the comments to condemn me for. And that's this. The minimum has to be enough. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying here that the minimum should be the goal. I'm not saying that you shouldn't encourage people to do more than their minimum. I think it's totally fine and probably actually necessary to encourage people to go beyond the boundaries of what they feel they are comfortably capable of giving, to ask people to go above and beyond and give more. All I'm saying is that you should be prepared to accept whatever it is they wind up being able to bring to the table. Even if whatever it is that they bring to the table seems to you to be not enough. Because the reality is this: none of us are actually doing enough. And what I mean when I say that is, if we are not reaching the high watermark of total and absolute devotion set by the likes of Aaron Bushnell, then we could always, hypothetically, be doing more, giving more, saying more. And if we could be doing more, then it stands to reason that we should be doing more. But we don't. We do the amount we do, and we don't do more. We fail again and again to rise to someone else's standard of what would potentially qualify as sufficient or enough. And we all have our own varying reasons for this. Maybe we're focused on helping a loved one with a health crisis. Maybe we're attending to our own mental or physical health crisis. Maybe we're feeling particularly financially strained. Maybe we just met a new person we're romantically interested in, and we selfishly just want to put some of our available attention into nurturing that. Maybe there was a protest scheduled for Friday night, but your niece's 10th birthday dinner was the same night, and you chose to do that instead. You could reasonably argue that children dying in Gaza is more important than dinner with the family at Buca di Beppo, but I'm not really interested in that argument. I'm not interested in litigating what matters more or what the most meaningful use of my time, energy, and attention is at any given moment. In a situation like this, your time, energy, and attention are critical resources. So you have to ask yourself, when engaging in the online discourse, are you using your time, energy, and attention to actually advocate for something that matters in a meaningful, substantive way? Or are you using your time, energy, and attention to point out who you are doing better than on the advocacy spectrum? Trying to have the philosophical debate of whether it's more important to show your niece that you love and support her, or whether it's more important to attend a protest for an act of genocide, is a debate you can certainly have if you want. Go ahead and get in these comments and spend half a day debating this with a total stranger if that's what floats your boat. What's real and honest and definitive is that we're all showing up for this fight in ways that are inadequate and insufficient. And holding a public tribunal to decide whose advocacy is the most consistent, the most total, the most complete, and whose advocacy falls too short or is not up to our standards and needs to therefore be shamed, does nothing for the people suffering in Gaza. It is a waste of our time, energy, and attention, and it is therefore a waste of precious resources. We are all already devoting an insufficient and inadequate amount of our personal time and energy to this cause. We don't need to waste even more time and energy having moral superiority contests on the internet. And that's why the minimum has to be enough. Whatever any person is willing to offer has to be regarded and received as enough. because the people who are suffering right now need whatever available bandwidth we have and are willing to offer. If you're willing to make your effort the minimum you want others to rise to, then maybe just extend that a little further and let their minimum be sufficient for them. There's certainly someone out there whose effort is outdoing your own, and you're not busying yourself making content about how terrible of a person you are for not reaching their level, nor should you be. You're doing what you feel you can and trying to live with that. You're allowing your minimum to be enough. So all I'm saying is extend that grace to others. If all they can offer is $5 or a single Instagram post, liking or sharing a video now and then, maybe showing up to a single community event, take it. Accept the help, insufficient as it is. Realize that your advocacy is also insufficient. Get off your fucking sanctimonious high horse and recognize that although none of us may be doing enough, we are almost all certainly trying to do our best.